most of the time people find interview process to be stressful. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think it's a journey. I think, one of the things, the ways to see interview is to see it as a journey, is to see it as a process. I think most of the time we come to an interview with the intention that we want to get the job or want to get the scholarship. And I understand I would feel the same as well. But I think more recently for me, I'm seeing it more or less like a journey. I'm seeing it more or less like an opportunity to audition myself and to speak about myself and to present myself and to present my work. And if you accept that, fine. If you don't, that's also okay. So I would say that seeing it as a journey or as a learning opportunity makes you relax, gives you that confidence you need to navigate the interview. That they are not just interviewing you, you're also probably going to interview them as well in the journey and the conversation, and then you're maintaining your poise and you're also maintaining your confidence. So, and at the end of the day, if you don't win, it's also fine. So you see it as a journey. So that's why, and there's this Antonio Gramsci quote, which says optimism of the will, pessimism of the intellect. I don't go into an interview with the intention that, oh, I'm going to beat everybody or I have to win. Obviously, I would have that intention that I have to win, but I also have that pessimism of the intellect that what if I don't win as well? That's fine. So I've learned through the process, and that makes me humble in the journey of the interview and in responding to the question as well. Yeah, so I think that would be my reflection on how I feel. But I also think that one thing that is also important is what's the preparation towards the interview as well. I think that also makes me feel confident as well. So one of the things that I used to do when I'm preparing for an interview, for example, for example, graduate school, let's use graduate school as an example. You read about the school, you read about the scholarship, you're just like, even if I'm in the bus, if I'm sleeping at me, like before I go to bed, I will just browse random things and start reading. Like I will just keep reading different things, random things that probably they're not even connected to my interview, but they are related to they are related to the interview, but they are like just like content that you might not think might be useful at the end of the day. And then you get to the interview and then you found them useful. So you might, oh, what are the alumni? What are they doing? What work are they doing? How many lecturers do they have? Oh, how many faculty do they have? What are the new projects that they are doing and all of those things? And sometimes I can even pick my questions from there when they say, do you have any question? I'm like, oh, actually, I was browsing through your work and I read this, and it shows interest, right? It shows you're interested. And sometimes these are the little things that makes the difference in the interview. And also, if I don't practice with somebody or I don't do a mock with somebody, for example, I do a mock with myself.
Mm,
So I'll look at the mirror, I will ask myself the question, I will respond. Whenever I have a free time in the house, I'll walk around my parlor and I'll start asking myself a potential question that they would ask me and I'll respond to it. So
mm,
what I'm doing is that I'm familiarizing myself with the likely question that they may ask me. Initially, in the beginning, I could do a mock with people, but I've stopped doing mock with people. So I would do the mock with myself. So I'll be talking to myself. I'll be like, okay, what would the likely question be? Let me perfect my pitch here. And then I'll write short notes. I'll write short, these are the questions. These are the um, um, things that I'm likely going to say, just that familiarization so that you're not getting into the interview and it seems that the interview is like your practice ground rather than you should
mm,
have practiced way before the interview. I mean, when it gets to a stage, you really do actually need to practice before an interview. I literally don't practice anymore because, for example, if you ask me to tell me about myself, I already knew a response I'm going to give to you. I can tweak it to like 10 things, you
mm,
know, if you ask me about my weakness, I've answered those questions multiple times already. So I already knew the likely answer I'm going to give to you.
mm.
So that is different, right? It's a practice. So, and for me, it was because it was a journey. I did multiple and multitude of interviews, and then they grounded me as well.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, from my own perspective, I actually believe that if you are invited for an interview in the first place, that
Hmm.
shows that you are qualified. That
Yeah.
shows that they've read your materials, they've read, they've gone through the CV, the personal statement, and they
Mhm.
see that you're a good fit for that program.
Mm.
Some people they sometimes they want to memorize what they want to say during the interview. What do you think about that? Is it good to memorize what you want to say or just practice?
It's a wrong strategy to memorize, and I have never seen somebody who has memorized the answers they went through the interview. In fact, as an interviewer myself, I can easily pick on when somebody has memorized their response because it's not you. It's not, and I'm not trying to make a blank statement here, but I'm just trying to say that you should not memorize answers. It's not real. It's not genuine. You want to go to an interview with your genuine self, with who you are, like leave room for mystery. By the time you practice everything and then you practice everything to the extent that you're responding based on the fact that you've crammed your responses, it's not okay. So you need to give room for mystery.
Mm,
You need to give room for like, okay, flex, and then you get into the interview, you can easily flex. But then the good thing is that you recognize your response, right? For example, if you've
mm,
got into an interview, go back to your essay because maybe you submitted that essay 3 months ago or 6 months ago and you've forgotten the things you've written, even though they are your story. You can go back again to revisit what you've written, what were your line of thought, so that you're not going out of your line of thought in the totality or in the entirety. And you can always like bring back your responses as well to the things that you've reflected on. So what I would rather say is, you can practice without memorizing. So you can familiarize. That's the word I like to use. I use familiarization a lot. So one of the things I will do, I'll just make sure I familiarize myself with my response. I put things into bullets. So they ask you question, okay, why have you applied for this scholarship, for example? I have applied for this scholarship because of three reasons. One, two, three. I mentioned the three reasons immediately because there's also something called the rule of three or the rule of two. Once you number something, people don't forget what you've numbered. So you
mm,
number one, two, or one, two, three, or one, two, three, four. But I would like to focus on two most important ones that are connected to me and the course that I've chosen. And the one is this, and this is why is this. I would explain again, explain this, explain again. This example, this example, this example, right? And then you're providing context to your response. And then you go to the second one. And then let me now walk you through the second answer that I have said, right? And then you provide an answer. You're not only being logical, you're also adding examples. You're connecting the dots. It's like you're telling a story. That's an interview. Interview is actually like storytelling. You're connecting a story. You're like connecting the dots. You're making like you're making sense of things. Like it's honestly like I love interviews because it's for me it's an opportunity to express myself and I love expression, right? And I think once you start finding it comfortable with yourself, I think you would love interview. And that's why I feel like bullet points are fine to just build up your answers and being like and familiarizing yourself with your essay so that you're not just going there and saying like and you're reading as if you've crammed something. It doesn't make sense.
Thank you very much for that. Someone said great stuff. Thank you very much for sharing more insight on that.
Mhm.
Sometimes people, how can we build confidence when it comes to interview?
Mm. Mm.
Sometimes people just get scared. Oh, I'm speaking to new person, someone that I don't know before. They don't know about me, and
Mm.
a whole lot of things. So, how
Yep.
can someone overcome that fear?
Mm. I think many people ask me this question, and I would like to draw from psychology. In psychology, there's something called the mere exposure effect, right? And the mere exposure effect is used in psychotherapy. It's called the exposure therapy, where if you're scared of something, or if you're scared of doing something, you build up yourself until you feel comfortable doing that thing. You expose yourself little by little until you feel comfortable going into an interview. I'm always scared, even up until now. Before I go to an interview, I'll be scared. But the moment I start talking, forget it, it's done.
Mm,
Um, so, but I'm more comfortable now. It's not that I'm not scared, but I'm more comfortable.
mm,
And the reason why I'm more comfortable is how I've exposed myself over time to difficult situations and to multiple interviews. So I will go on and be like, I just want to learn. I was, and one of the ways to build that confidence up, you know, it's a bit by bit. You build the confidence bit by bit until you feel comfortable. Let your family member interview you. Sit with somebody you can trust. Let them interview you. Let them do a mock with you. It makes you feel comfortable. And then it makes you understand your responses. And then you feel like, okay, these are the places where I'm not making sense. These are the things I need to work on. Oh, I'm actually using fillers here so much. Oh, I'm doing a lot of hem here. Like, and then you start practicing and then improving.
Mm,
And I also think great interviewers are also great speakers. So, and also great storytellers as well. I will use storyteller instead of speakers. Storytelling doesn't have to be until you get into a formal space to talk about the things. Sometimes storytelling is when you talk to your friend.
mm,
So from having conversation with my friends, sometimes I develop my thought processes. And those thought processes are things that I say in interviews sometimes. So in having conversation with like your friend, for example, just, having, oh, I've been thinking about this interview and there's a question that I'm actually struggling with. And I want to also have conversation about it.
mm,
And then you're chatting, and then before you know, you're grappling insight and insight and insight and insight. And then those insight then gives you an opportunity and confidence to go into the interview as well. So always find an opportunity to speak. Always find an opportunity to practice, right? Like my public speaking has improved now than what it used to be 7, 8, 9 years ago. But what I did was that I exposed myself to it little by little, bit by bit, places where I feel comfortable to talk, places where I feel comfortable to share. And little by little, my confidence now then grew until I can, like, anybody bring it on up. I'm going to speak, I'm going to talk, and I'm going to tell you what I think and what I feel. Right. So I would say that it's a process again, and it's by exposing ourselves to an interview process before an interview that we feel comfortable about an interview as well. And by going into that interview as well, it's an exposure as well. And by going to multiple interview as well, it's an exposure as well. And then from there you build the confidence you need to, navigate the interview process. I think yeah, that's something that I would say that we can do to build our confidence and also competence. So because there's confidence, but there's also competence. Competence also gives you confidence. So we need to like think through the skills we are building. Because if you feel like I actually know the nitty-gritty of this work, I have done this work, I'm not lying, then interview becomes easy. Because you've done the work, you know the root of the work, you know the people for example, if you're into non-profit or development, you know the people you're supporting, you know their names, you know what their project is, you know what the project is, you know how you have supported them, you understand the story, right? And then it helps you to be able to like frame things when you get into like an interview. You've done the job already. Sorry.
mm. Sorry.
So I think those so I would encourage people to also be go and do something. Get your hands dirty. That's where you get experiences from.
Mm,
Because what you're saying in an interview is an experience. You're telling stories. We are like stories across time. We live stories almost every single day,
mm,
you know. And by living those stories, we are getting multiple examples to talk about in an interview. So that's why it seems that most of the time you cannot corner me in an interview because there are multitude of examples and experiences because I got myself involved and I got my hands dirty. So I'll then be picking up in examples for you. I'll say, oh, in 2017, when this happened to me, I reflected on this, I saw this as well. Another thing is reflection. Most of the time, we go to even writing an application to start with, even before going into an interview, you need to create room for reflection. And so when I didn't, if for example I didn't get to do well in an interview, for example, I would sit down, I'll go back. Or if I didn't, get an opportunity and I think my application, it's not enough. Even though it's enough, I will go and look at it that there might be a mistake somewhere. Then I will reflect and then I reflect, oh, actually, I have not done this. Maybe I should go do this again. And it gives me an opportunity to create an opportunity to improve. Maybe I should improve my skills in so, 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 and so. Maybe if I have improved my skills in so, so, and so, I would have a better chance or a better shot at this interview. Right. Oh, actually, I didn't respond well to that question. Oh, that feedback that they've given to me, actually, that's so true. I didn't answer that question. So reflection as well is part of the process, and it's also part of the journey of having a great interview as well.
Thank you very much for that. I know, sometimes people think interview is just a one-way process. Someone is just trying to ask you a whole lot of questions.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it's two-way. I think it's conversational.
Hmm,
Um, I so in some of my interviews that I do, you would see me sometimes even pausing in between.
hmm,
I love to enjoy my interview these days. I would just go there and I would pause, I would have fun, like, could you come again with that question? Or what do you mean when you say this? I'm curious. Can you come again? Like you're having a conversation, you're talking to somebody. I had an interview recently, and I think at the beginning of the interview, I said, oh, because they've interviewed me before, those people, and they rejected me in the year they interviewed me before. So I said, oh, it's good to see you guys again. You know, oh, we don't remember you. Like, oh, I did interview last year, uh,
hmm,
and I'm happy to be here again.
hmm,
Sometimes you also have to be a little bit witty.
hmm,
Yeah, in my interview, a little bit.
hmm,
I can be a little bit like, I'm like, boy, yeah, great, and then I'll be looking forward to like the questions, right?
hmm,
I'm like, oh, that's an interesting question. I wasn't thinking about that. But yeah, my reflections. Like you're having a conversation, right?
hmm,
No. And you're not just jumping into like, I want to answer, I want to answer. The moment you're jumping into I want to answer is deadly.
hmm.
Because then you need a window to think, even though that window is 2 seconds.
Yeah, to chip something in. Like, let's say we are asked a question during the interview and you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
You don't even know what to say. How do you cope with that kind of scenario?
So this is what I'm going to say. I would say that I wasn't thinking about that question and I haven't reflected on the answer. But here is what I'm currently thinking about the question you've asked me.
Don't just say no, I don't know.
Yeah,
Just end.
it might not be, this might not be totally related to the question you've asked,
Hmm,
but based on what you've asked and based on my reflection and based on my experiences,
hmm,
these are the things that I think I'm going to do if you put me into the situation.
hmm,
So that could be a scenario-based question. And maybe you've never been in that scenario before, so you don't need to make up a scenario.
hmm,
But you could say, actually, to be candid, I haven't had such an experience before. But here is something I'm going to do if you put me in such an experience.
hmm,
One, two, three things I'm going to do. And this is a particular situation that might not probably connected to that particular situation, but it's a little bit closer that I did. For example, I was actually speaking to my younger brother yesterday, and like I like to turn interview around. The
hmm,
questions, you would turn it around, like you would turn it to your favor,
hmm,
basically.
hmm,
And that requires a particular skill. I used to turn question around. I would turn I could even say that I think maybe we should reframe that question and say it this way.
Mm,
So it's also a little bit confidence, being witty a little bit, but also with a sense of humility
mm,
and gratitude as well. Because one of the things that I do in interview, I show a lot of gratitude and humility in between.
mm,
And humility is, and these are characteristics that people are actually measuring for and they are looking for in a program. When I got an opportunity some years ago, they said it was because of my character. That's why they hired me.
mm,
It was because of how I received feedback. You know, so most of the time when you're being interviewed, you're not just being interviewed for your response.
mm,
You're being interviewed for your character
mm,
as well. So imagine somebody cooks up a lie or a scenario, and somebody who says, "Oh, I I wasn't thinking about that question. I don't have an answer to that question, but here is what I'm going to do if you put me in that situation." Isn't that a better response than I don't know?
Yes. Thank you very much for that. For graduate school, sometimes people just want to, if you have, let's say, for a particular program in university, you have past scholars or past students, you
Mhm.
think it's okay to reach out to them?
Yeah, 100%. I think so. I think that gives you the confidence as well. I wanted to touch on that, when I was talking about building confidence. I think speaking to previous scholars could give you confidence because there's something about knowing that somebody has done it before. There's something about knowing that somebody has been through the journey before, and you can also go through that journey as well. So I would say that actually speaking to previous scholars works because they know, sometimes they even know the mistakes that they've made.
Exactly.
They know what they've done, right? And they're able to guide you better. They're able to like say that, oh, these are the things you should do. These are the things you should say. These are the things you should not say. But despite the fact that they've advised you based on their own experiences, your experiences are also unique to yourself. So there should also be something new, like I don't take all the answers that people tell me. I'll be like, no, I love what this person has said, but I'll bring in some of my own uniqueness as well, right? So I think even doing a mock with a previous scholar would go a long way because then they can tell you and then guide you through. Maybe if you're going too fast in your responses, they can pull you, like, take it easy a little bit. I think now I'm actually more calm in an interview. In the past, I used to be very, very like fast and I would like be rushing to answer questions, which is sometimes fine as well because you're being passionate as well. Like you're passionate about it, you're passionate about the work. And I think that's fine. But more recently, I would lean towards being calm. I would lean towards like you can be calm and be passionate,
Mm,
right? You can be calm and still talk about how passionate you are in the work you do, but then you're making sure that you're communicating and people are not actually struggling to follow your line of thought and processes as well as you share in an interview.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, that's really, really insightful. So, well, I think most of the time is like it's okay to actually reach out, as you said, because if you go through an interview, most of the time you will not forget the experience. So you can easily learn and tap from the knowledge of past scholar or past student from that program and learn one or two things from them. And in fact, you can, some programs they even assess knowledge. I mean, knowledge based. What is this? What is that in your feed? So if
Hmm.
you don't speak with past scholar, you won't know if they test that kind of thing. So
Exactly.
please, if you are here, go reach out to past scholar so that you will know whether they ask for knowledge based question in your feed, and you'll be able to prepare along that line. So it is very, very important.
I,
I know
I,
for
I need to actually touch on something. Sorry for cutting you.
no problem.
Yeah, I think some people are a lazy applicant. And I used to say this a lot. The reason why I say people are lazy applicants is people don't do their research, right? There are people who have been through that interview. Some of them have shared their experiences openly,
Mm,
either on YouTube
mm,
or either on LinkedIn. And if you Google, you'll find them. But you see, people are lazy. I People don't want to go
mm.
through the process of like research because, like you're saying, the test for business knowledge, somebody must have written something about that.
Mm,
And then by just reading what that person have written, now you know.
right.
But you see, people would not read those things.
Mm,
They are looking for somebody who will probably give them handout. But I don't think somebody who have actually gotten in an interview should be thinking that way, though. Personally, I
for
feel
you to
like,
be invited, you are about 50 to 70% in.
yeah.
So
So
they've read your application and they love it.
yeah. So I don't think you should be lazy at that point.
Mm,
I think that's the point where you should even add more energy to your
mm,
power
mm,
because I feel like people get interview and they feel lazy and relaxed.
mm,
They actually have gotten into the interview, it's fine, but it's in the interview you're actually competing with the best of the best in the interview.
right.
Every other person is also deserving of the scholarship or the opportunity as well.
Mm,
So that's where you need to take your preparation to another level. And so that you're not responding like how everybody would respond. Or you're not answering like how everybody would, answer, like, oh, why do you actually want this scholarship? Oh, so that I can change my community. Why? When you've already added a response that shows an example, within your community and everything and things that you want to do, right? So, yeah, I feel like also doing the research to read things that people have written about their interview experience, could guide people through as well because people have actually written things
mm,
about their interview experience, about all of those things that because sometimes somebody who is in the program might be very busy,
right.
maybe a current scholar or somebody who is an alumni. In fact, there are some things that I've done, fellowship that I've done in the past, and people like almost 6, 7 years ago,
Mm,
and people will be reaching out to me to guide them through. I'm like, no, I don't do that again. I'm sorry. I don't have the time. I really don't have the time to actually sit with somebody to be doing a mock.
mm,
But then have I said something in the past that on YouTube that I've recorded? You could find them.
mm,
Have I, written articles in the past about interviews? You will find them, right? You could easily read them. And there are many people like that because people are busy. So you can't be like forcing yourself on people. Obviously, if people are free, they want to do it, fine. But then you're not also entitled to their time. But I also understand the idea of giving back as well, right? But what I would say is that when people don't respond to you, and I and my cousin, we used to have this rule that we would never get angry to people who do not respond to us.
right.
We don't know what they are going through. We
Mm,
don't know what they are experiencing at the moment.
mm,
What we say that if they don't respond to us, we'll go and do it by ourselves. And what we will do is that we'll go and read and research and find things and find information. And then we'll work on that information. And that's why sometimes even your best interviewers, they are your friends.
mm,
When I was looking for scholarship, some of the people who interviewed me were my friends. I will call them and I'll be like, hey, let me talk to you about my response.
mm,
They'll say, ask me a question. I'll be, oh, this is good response. Oh, why are you not thinking about this? Oh, you didn't even mention this that you've done. So sometimes we are looking for the people who are busy, who will not respond to us, rather than actually looking for people who are within our network that we can take advantage of, or some people that are even proximal to us that are friends that we can work with to do the mock interview for us and we can prepare.
mm,
Because the people you're trying to reach out to, they already provided that information. So you can build on that information and use that to create a more question. In fact, based so there was somebody who got a scholarship recently, and we I did a mock for them. So when I asked them, how did you get the questions, right? You know what they said? They said I just went online to gather all the responses and I took it on ChatGPT to create a set of questions for me
mm.
based on these articles.
Wow.
And that was how, and I used that question that they gave me to do the mock for them. I recently I was doing a mock for somebody within my work, and I wanted to prepare them for an opportunity. And you know what I did? I just went to ChatGPT. I said, based on the information people have provided online on this particular program or on this particular graduate school or of graduate school in the US, could you share potential questions that might be asked in an interview based on the responses these people have provided? Be specific as possible.
Mm. So if you are in this generation and you are not leveraging AI for your personal development, then there's
Yeah.
something.
I'm not saying you copy responses, right? But
Mm,
then you can use that to easily get questions,
exactly.
practice with that,
Yeah. Mm.
right? So,
Thank you very much for that. I mean, another thing that is very, very important, I think, for interview most of the time is that some people can speak off point in the sense that, when they are doing graduate school interview, they're
mhm.
also looking at your fit for that particular program.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what do you advise on, like, based on that? Like, some
Mhm,
people go off point. Maybe a program is focused on just Africa or is focused on maybe medical statistics.
mhm,
But you, when you get to the interview stage, you are so relaxed and you are talking off point on things that are not relevant to that program. Because
mhm,
one of the things they are looking out for is also your fit, whether you are a perfect fit for that program, whether you're going to benefit from that program. How do you think people can maximize or can put points together to be able to make that really clear to people that actually interview them, that they know what this program is all about and they are a perfect fit for that particular program?
mhm. I think if you've gotten to an interview, they already knew you were a perfect fit to start with. So if
Mm.
you're taking off point at that point, then you are the problem. No, it's the truth.
Mm.
When you're talking off point at that moment, then you're the problem. I understand some people talk too much. I can be one too. And then before you know, you've got somewhere else, and they
Mm.
have to bring you back. So, so that's why
Mm.
it's very, very important to like again understand the course you're applying to, understand why you're applying to the course, have knowledge about the course, have knowledge about, even some of the modules you may likely take. Who are the people taking the module?
Let me tell you on this particular part of module.
Yeah.
There's During my Oxford interview, there's a question on that, okay, which module are you going to take? Um, I later realized that people that don't really answer that question were when we have like some people that didn't later get in, they were unable to answer that particular question because
Yeah.
that shows that you don't understand what the course is all about.
Hmm.
It's as simple as that. That means you've not read the course page to know what you really want to do, like
Hmm.
when you get into the program. So I just want to touch on that because I really because that point is important. So know
That's
everything about the program.
that's why I'm saying don't be a lazy applicant.
Mm,
So
mm,
again, if you're applying to a course or a program, there's a connection with what you're doing and what
mm,
you need to do. If there's no connection, there might maybe if there's a connection through a previous course you've done, there will be connection through your experiences. If
mm,
there's no connection to your experiences, there will be connection through your intention.
right.
So there could be connection through a previous course you've done. There could be connection through your experiences, which is maybe either volunteering job or whatever experiences, or connection through intention and understanding. Intention and
Mm,
understanding is the knowledge base. You have a knowledge base, you've read about it, you want to pivot.
mm,
And this is the reason why you want to pivot. So the stories you'll be telling in that regard is the story of aspiration.
mm,
So you're thinking, because there are interviews where I go to, I will talk about my aspirations. That story doesn't have to be something you cook up.
mm,
It could be an aspiration, right? And it's like the aspiration could be, this is the problem I'm seeing in this work. AI is going to change the way we say the word in the next 10 years, for example. Maybe I want to do something in AI, but I don't have an experience around it. And these are the things I've seen. These are the trends I've seen. In fact, the data currently shows that 30% of this will do this and this and this and this. And in fact, I've started gathering thoughts, I've started building this, I've started working on this, and I feel that if I work in this are the things I'm going to do to change that field.
mm,
And I believe that by taking so and so model, by taking so and so question, something would ground me in this idea and would be an addition to an experience that I've had, even though those experiences are not in its entirety connected to this particular course. But I understand as well that in this generation, interdisciplinary is the way to solve problem ordinary disciplines cannot solve.
mm,
So I'm looking forward to bring my knowledge in philosophy and connect it to AI and make sure we are providing or creating value-based AI solutions.
mm,
Like you can see the connection there.
mm,
So it's understanding, right? And I think it's good to have that understanding. And you've read description, you've read everything, you've been through an application, you're on an interview phase. Like a gray mistake, a huge mistake would be saying something else if it doesn't connect. Even if you're saying something else, I'm not saying you should not be creative. I used to be creative in my interview, but don't say something else that you're going off point that you're not answering the question. The first thing I asked you a question, you need to answer the question. And I think that's why for me, listing your response is fine in the beginning, depending on the question they've asked you. Why have you chosen this? Why have you chosen Oxford? Why have you chosen? I've chosen Oxford because of three reasons. One, because of the strong alumni community. Two, because based on the background of where I'm coming from, Oxford will give me credibility to get to the next level of my career. Three, so with that, you will not be going off points
And
because
there's
of
something that you didn't say now. When you're talking about Oxford, you are not you didn't mention the fact that Oxford is the best university in the world. Some people overstate that during the interview. You are likely to be rejected if you do that. Because of it. Because they know they really want to see why you are a fit for that program, not about the fact that okay, it's the best university in the world or is this, is that. No.
they
Why is
already.
that program? Why is that university for you? Yeah. Can you also touch on that? Because that's one of the questions I want to ask.
So again, I think you could still say it's the best, but there are ways you can say it's the best without actually even saying it's the best, or you can even say it's
Right.
the, I could
Mm,
say, Oxford is one of the most renowned universities in the world, and I've produced great thinkers that have contributed to the development of the world, and I think I want to follow that suit.
mm,
I want to follow that pathway. These are the things that I've been building, and I think that Oxford will put me in the right trajectory to get there. Because Oxford, not only that Oxford has this, the school that I'm also the program I've chosen has gotten so number of this and this and this. And these are the number of publications that has been created in that program. And I'm looking forward to contribute to those publications and contribute to the base of knowledge and make sure that people who look like me are creating knowledge around this field and around this particular sector.
mm.
And I
Wow.
think Oxford will put me in the line to get to that level and to get to the next level of my career. In fact, I'm excited already. Like I do that in my interview. Well, like I'm
Mm,
really, it feels humbling even being here in the interview,
mm,
and I am excited to see what I get to learn, to meet remarkable, incredible people that I get to learn from,
right.
also contribute to the base of knowledge and what you know this
Mm.
institution is actually building and creating.
So if you
It's
want
really,
to lay emphasis on being the best or their school is very good, always like tie it back
yeah.
to things that are actually that are substantial or that are actually related to the program or the university. Not just that, why do you want to study in Oxford? Why do you want to study in Bristol? Why do you want to study at Edinburgh? Oh, because it's one of the best university in the world.
In fact,
Mm.
you could mention the
Are
lecturers,
you?
like because you could even say that, oh, there's a
Mm,
particular lecturer that I've read his work, really quite interesting work that they've done.
mm,
And I like that because they're also a Nigerian. I'm also,
mm,
I think taking their course will be they can easily relate to me, relate to my challenges, relate to my problem. Transitioning from Nigeria to the UK might be complex. And I think by taking that course and by having access or connected to that lecturer would
mm.
grant help me and this, and I think we could also collaborate to solve problems together in Nigeria because I've seen that they've actually done a research in a line of my work, and I want to connect with like
Right.
People would not say some of those things right in the interview.
Mm, mm,
So you want to get into an interview, you don't want to be other people. You want to be somebody who is showing initiative. You
mm.
want to be somebody who has shown that I've read, I've researched, I'm prepared.
And in fact, you can cite some research that they've done in the department.
Yeah. Yeah.
They'll be so sure, interesting.
There was a time I was doing an interview, a graduate school interview, and the person who was interviewing me was actually sitting beside the person. Like he said, the office of the person is beside
Wow.
that I was talking about.
Mm.
So it's like, I'm not lying. It's what
Mm.
I've read.
And that will also lift their spirit and they realize that, this person is a serious person.
Exactly.
Mm,
So it shows interest,
mm,
and it shows preparation as well. Like I said, most of the time we think people are measuring your response,
mm,
but they are not only measuring your response, they are also measuring character.
mm,
They are grading character. Character in the sense of like they are grading preparation, they are grading interest, they
mm,
are grading new insight, new contribution, they are grading independent thoughts, they are grading critical thoughts.
mm,
And those grading might not be on paper, it's graded through feelings
mm,
that then influence the kind of score you later get.
mm, mm. Thank you very much for that. I mean, I'm enjoying this conversation. So insightful. Thank you very much. I think I have something here again. If people want to interview you, I mean, some people, is it good to go and read about their background? Sometimes they tell you the name of this professor is going to interview you. Uh, so, what do you think about that? And how do
I,
you think
I, I will read
manage that?
about you. I would read about you if I know that you're the one interviewing me.
Hmm,
It's good. Because then when you read about them, you know where they are coming from. And it also allows you to prepare a question for them after they, you read about them, you read about their research, you read about their work, you read where they are coming from. It also allows you to do small talks in between here and there when you're maybe in the beginning, oh, this is this, and they're introducing themselves. I'm like, I actually read about that and it's quite interesting. I read about this particular research you've done and I was just like really inspired by it. But yeah, I would love to discuss that later on. I know I'm here for an interview and it'll be great too. Like,
hmm, hmm.
see with small talk.
I actually did that for Cambridge when I applied for my master's. And one of the person that's actually going to interview me is an urban epidemiologist.
Mm,
Just at the end of the time, I just ask her that what's actually make you get that interest in urban epidemiology. And she's like, oh, wow, you check about that. I explained everything. And I got into, but I had to go to Oxford. So I think is for my own experience too. I think it's like very very good. So that even when you are answering some question,
yeah.
there's a way you answer
Hmm.
to sync with the personality of the person that you're actually talking to, because
Yeah.
you know their interest, you know where they are coming from, you know what they've done, and you
Yeah.
know what can excite them. That see this guy. Hmm. So you
Even,
actually know this,
even it helps you to also disagree
right?
in a reflective way.
Hmm.
You're disagreeing, but you're not like fighting. You
Hmm.
can this is what this person actually thinks.
Hmm.
They love critical thought.
Hmm.
So it's going to be critical a little bit in some
Hmm.
part, right? So it's just like understanding people, understanding the psyche of people, where they are coming from. Like you mentioned, it's good for question. I think for me, I use it mostly in question, even, but it helps me to like know who they are and frame the conversation, even help me feel comfortable about them. Sometimes if they even have, some of them may even have videos on YouTube, you don't know.
I do
So
that a lot too. I will watch their video where they
but
spoken and they
yeah,
just get one or two things.
they are presenting the paper.
Yeah.
You get your thoughts from there, and you're
Hmm.
like, and you get the end of question. Actually, my question is for Professor George.
Hmm.
I read about your work on this and urban epidemiology. I also watched the video you presented in a conference in the US last year on this topic, and I was deeply inspired by it. There was a question I actually had. from just watching that video. I don't know if you're okay for me to ask that
I can
question.
be sure that most people will not do what you just mentioned. Most people will never do that.
When I tell you, they'll be like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow,
Because
nice.
I also like to give people the power. It's
Mm,
psychology. They're like, oh, is it okay for me to ask that question? Is it okay for me to ask a personal question?
mm,
You, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I watched the video and I was even inspired. But I noticed that when you mentioned, you
mm,
didn't, there were some countries I noticed that were missing.
mm.
Was there a reason why those countries were missing?
Wow.
What the limitation of that research was? Because
Mm,
thinking of the limitation, I didn't see it in the presentation and I've been curious. In fact, I've been rattling my head of what a potential limitation would have been. But I thought I should ask you.
the interviewer will never forget that.
Exactly.
When they are trying to make the decision, the final decision, this guy is what I asked this particular question.
So they will judge you for judge the person
Mm,
indirectly for
mm,
curiosity. So, like I said,
wow.
they are not judging your responses alone.
Mm,
They are judging for character, which are inherent in the responses that you provide.
mm. So they are judging a whole lot of things, the way all your responses, they're not just speaking what you're actually saying. Most of the
Yeah.
time, they want to get how you communicate, how you make your point, whether you are passionate, whether you speak with confidence. So they are picking a whole lot of things. Thank you very much for that. I
But
mean,
those things are not written down,
hmm.
but they influence your score. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. What do you think about thank you notes after interview? There's sometimes some people say send thank you notes. Hey, it doesn't matter, it matters. Or, what do you think about that?
Yes, I don't do it sometimes. I actually don't do it.
Me too.
Don't do it. And because sometimes it might seem as like patronage,
Mm.
you're patronizing. So if you will pick me, fine. If you do not want to pick me, it's okay.
But if you really want to do it, some people say you can actually do it, but just thank them for their time, and that's all.
Yeah,
Don't sound too pushy.
yeah, I mean, you could say a thank you, and then you send a further note of like, oh, these are the documents of some of the um, research that I've done, or some certain things that I think would be of interest as well. Like, if it's a job, I will use more job as an example. Maybe you've created a strategy document
Mm,
that you noted that you mentioned in the interview. You can share that strategy document at the end of the interview and say thank you for your time. And here's the strategy documents I touched on. Well, this is the documents I was talking about when I mentioned a particular answer for your reference. In fact, you can ask them, is it okay if I send this strategy document that I've mentioned or this particular document that I've mentioned to provide context to my response,
mm,
at the end of the interview? Is it okay for me to send that?
mm.
And then they'll tell you that yes or no. Right. So again, it's like there's something about putting power into people's hand. It's what I've learned. Making people make the decision that you want.
And a thank you note will never replace a very bad, like a bad interview.
Yeah,
If it's not really
exactly.
bad, if it's send thank you after, it doesn't really do anything.
But yeah, I really don't do that thank you thing. No. Except if they follow up and then I respond.
Mm.
You
Because some
know.
people might think maybe you are trying to influence their decision.
Yeah. So
Something.
wait for them, let them make their decision and everything. So you can thank them. The thank you want to do.
Yeah.
Thank them in the interview already.
Mm,
No need to send an email if you're not sending an additional document. You can
mm,
always thank them in the interview already. It's been a pleasure being here. I've done interviews like, it's been a pleasure being here. I enjoyed this conversation. It was good to chat about this. Thank you so much. I felt like it felt real. It felt real. I feel comfortable here.
mm.
Mm. Um, and
It's better to do all the thank you and make sure that you actually you do that well during the course of the interview.
yeah, you can at the end of and I'm looking forward to the next step and I'm excited already.
Mm.
Done.
Wow. Thank you very much. Do you have anything that you also want to share, maybe that I've missed that you think is going to be helpful to?
I
I know
think I've
we have a
I think
number of questions. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm
people
with you.
people have questions.
Yes.
Maybe I should answer those questions because I don't even handle it.
No problem. Let me check through. We have a number of people watching us. Okay, this particular question about should you ask any question at the end of your interview? I know that's a
Yeah,
yes. But some people don't know
me,
the importance. Can you shed
me,
more
I
light on that?
if I don't have a question, I would not ask.
Hmm.
If I don't, if I feel like it's not reasonable for me to ask, especially if I'm angry sometimes, and I'm like, I don't care, to be honest. I'm like, I really don't have any question.
Hmm.
An interview I did recently, I'm like, I think the question I asked them was, oh, last year I applied and I was rejected. And I asked for a feedback and I didn't get it. I am curious why I didn't get that feedback, even though you requested I can get a feedback, even though you said in your email that I can get a feedback. I'm curious why I didn't get that feedback. I love feedback so much. It's what allows me to learn. I think I learned from them a lot, but I was looking forward to the feedback and I didn't get it. They were shocked.
That response is full of many things. It shows that you're humble. It shows at the same time that you're confident, and
Yeah.
it shows that you know what you actually want.
Yeah. So they were like, "Oh, we are sorry, blah blah," And they didn't even send me the feedback. They just sent me congratulations. Again, it's being
Hmm.
witty sometimes, if you truly have questions, ask, But I think there are questions I would say that one of the questions I would say is one is asking people about their experience. You can never go wrong. So in case you don't have any question, any part, because I think it's good to ask specific question where you've read and researched. So you're not asking questions that are obvious. They're like,
Hmm.
you're an applicant of this job, you should know now.
Hmm. Oh, it's on our website.
It's a,
Company
like
website.
there are some
So they
questions
call-
that are reasonable to ask.
Hmm.
So if you would ask question, go deep. Make sure you dig. In fact, sometimes you will ask questions that they might. When I did my Chevron interview,
Okay.
there was a project that they did in the Chevron alumni in Nigeria did in like 2015.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it was 2015 or 2018. I can't remember. It was 2015, yeah. I went to dig that from their Facebook page. I said, oh, actually, I was going through your social media and just on your Facebook page. And I noticed that there was a project on educational stakeholdership that you did, you know, and I am curious, in that project because if I end up becoming a scholar, I would love to be part of that stakeholders engagement and project that you've done. So could you tell me more about that project and I can be involved in case? And I said I'm asking that to the alumni. They said they did not know.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
They had to Another person had to answer that question.
Hmm.
That was the only question I asked.
Wow.
Right.
And
So
I think that signal a lot of things that you are truly interested in this thing, not that it's superficial or something that they themselves don't even know.
we go and dig deep into things that people might not be thinking about. Oh, there's a policy document that I saw on your website that I read. And I was curious, how is that being implemented in practice?
Not a question like how many semester do you have in this course? How
Exactly.
can't you see that on the website already?
And
Hmm.
what are the if it's been implemented in practice, what are the lessons so far?
Hmm.
I'm Oh, okay. Actually, I'm thinking about this question. I'm curious about the culture of the
Hmm.
scholarship program. How do you guys build community? I've seen scholars share things, but I know sometimes that can be very superficial. What
Hmm.
are the things you're grappling with actually supporting and building scholars community?
Hmm.
Right.
It must be thoughtful if you are going to ask any question at all.
Like, go deep. But again, if you don't have questions, you could ask people about their experience. People like to talk about themselves a lot. So
Hmm.
just, you know, I notice you're the coordinator of this program and everything, and I know you've spoken to multiple other scholars. Could you tell me of, your experience and how that makes you feel motivated to do the work that you do?
Wow.
That's very simple, plain question without no hidden agenda and intention. You're just
Hmm.
curious.
Hmm.
there's a particular question that I think is important that a friend in my former job actually gave me that um, logic. And since then, I'm like, I don't use it every time, but once in a while is in my question arsenal. So the question is, you know, oh, is there anything that I have said in this interview that you think you need clarification on?
Hmm. Wow.
So
I love that.
what you're trying to do here is that the debrief that they will do behind you,
Hmm.
they will do it in front of you.
Hmm.
Because there will be some certain things that you have said, maybe you did not say them completely. And they're like,
Hmm.
oh, we wish you had said more of this.
Hmm.
So they will not like, oh, we were thinking. Some people will say no, that they don't have. Some people will be like, "Ah, actually, yeah, there's something you mentioned about so, so, and so. Could you tell me more about it? Oh, actually, I've done this. I just forgot to mention it then. This is it, this is it, this is it.
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
So,
This is so insightful. Thank you for this session. This is so insightful. A lot of people are so thankful. I enjoyed this session too. So we have another question. The question is it safe to also tailor our answers on why I have chosen the course to some of the achievements of the interviewers that is inspiring? And I would love to learn directly from them.
yeah, if they are an alumni, it's fine. If they are not connected at all, I think sometimes that could be dangerous.
Mm,
Right? But if they're an alumni, it's fine, like, and you could mention that, I've read about you and I've read about your work. I think it's incredible. And I think, these are the things you've done. And I'm looking forward to follow that path and follow that suit. And, and you've inspired me to apply, but not just you.
mm,
So that you can quickly redirect so that you're not patronizing them.
mm,
Because sometimes when you're doing that, it might seem as if you're patronizing them.
mm,
Or you can even mention them as if they are not in the room.
mm,
And they'll be like, oh, that's my name.
mm.
You know. So one thing you don't want to do is sounding patronizing.
Mm.
So it's you have to be caution in responding to that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We have another question here on how can you answer this question? How can you contribute to the program? What is your weakness as a person? And can we meet you?
Uh,
That's like
can
three.
can we meet you? It's a popular question. It's it's everybody get that question. Like, tell us about yourself. It's also can we meet you? Right. And it comes, and most people fumble in that question. It's mostly like an icebreaker question. They don't grade it most of the time. But
Mm,
that question can mar or can make your interview
yes.
because all your other response is built upon how you actually respond to that question. So for me, storytelling. Every time, like the line of that question is always storytelling. And I've perfected my pitch. So it's very important that you even have a pitch of can we meet you or tell us about yourself. If you don't have, go and practice your pitch.
Mm,
Because it's not even just for one interview. You will still continue to need that for multiple interview. So this is how I particularly would have responded to that question. Can we meet you or tell us about yourself? So I would say that I was born and raised in the largest floating slum in Africa, Makoko, Nigeria. I lost my mom when I was 7, and my dad became unemployed at the same time. I stayed out of school for academic term, and it was the same for my brother who stayed out of school for academic year. Until I attended a program for vulnerable children when I was 14. This program introduced me to self-esteem and leadership, and I was so inspired that I decided to engage my community. And by engaging my community, I noticed that my problem is not only unique to me, but
mm,
multiple young people in my community, and decided to speak to like 3,000 young people. And from engaging them, I noticed that only 1 in 10 would have access to 21st century skills needed to change their circumstances, integrate into the workforce, and prepare for the future of work. I was deeply inspired. I started teaching at the age of 15, where I was teaching young people in my community basic literacy and numeracy skills. I went further to start a nonprofit that's do this and this and this and this. And aside from that work that I do, that has impacted about 10,000 people already, I am a writer. I love to write. I love to reflect. I love to share my thoughts. I think I also love to do poetry because poetry helps me to make sense of things that I cannot communicate ordinarily. And I've also like written 3 books and published 17 poetry reflection. And that's me. That's what I do. And I'm actually really looking forward to this interview. I'm excited about the questions that I will be asked, and I'm really looking forward to be part of this program that I've applied to.
It's not about what is your name. It's not a what is your name question.
I was sure, and then to family.
You already know your name before you get to the interview phase.
I actually I don't say my name is this whenever they say, "Can we meet you or tell us about yourself?" I have
Mm,
never said my name is this.
mm.
I don't touch on it at all. I have never in my interview said my name is this. I don't need it. I don't need it. But I'll touch on things I believe, and I'll touch on the philosophy. Sometimes I even touch on things that are philosophical in that process. So it's owning and retweaking. And then what question did they ask again?
What is your weakness as a person?
So that particular question, for example, I can give you an hypothetical scenario as well. I think one of the things that I grapple with is being empathetic. Empathetic. I think I say yes to many people, even though it makes me more respectable within my network or within my community. I think it also burns me out, and it's something that I've been grappling with.
Your
Uh,
weakness doesn't have to be something bad.
yeah, and
Mm,
something that also helped me in my choosing because it means that there are many people that I can now talk to that can help me get things done whenever I need their support or their help.
mm,
But I am learning to say no. I am working on self-care at the moment. And these are the things I'm already doing to make sure that I can say no. So I try to communicate that I might not be able to help you at the moment because I am busy and I have this work. So I'm saying no to them so that I can say yes to the most important things. But would I say that I've been able to overcome this? No. And I still consider that as one of my greatest weakness. But I think
mm.
strength as well.
Wow.
I can give you another response to that question without using that example.
Let's have it.
I can tell you that one of the things that I struggle with is that I think a lot.
Mm,
I think because I think a lot and I contend a lot, it then affects me. Because I'm a deep thinker, because I like to think about things, because I grapple with things, I think it burns me out. I think it wears me out. But it's
mm,
because I try to understand the world, because I don't want to talk about things I do not understand.
mm,
So I would always think about things and grapple with things and grapple with issues. And that's the way I've been able to understand things and understand the world. And I think that stresses me a lot. But I'm learning to cool down. I've been creating time for exercise and creating time to unwind as well by listening to music and spending time with my family.
wow. Interesting. So we have another question on how can you contribute to the program? So
Um,
contribution to the program.
how can you contribute to the program is you've looked at what are the gaps first. So you've read the program and like, oh, okay, actually, they are gap here. They are not even doing well on their social media.
Mm,
you know, and they're like, oh, I'm actually looking forward to volunteer as a communication person. I did that in my interview for Mastercard Foundation when I was applying.
mm,
So in the interview, I actually said I look at the social media and I noticed that these are the things that are missing. And I think I am a great storyteller. I tell stories, I share stories through my blog. And I think I can use that to amplify the stories of scholars and tell their stories using my blog and using their social media platform as well. So I'm hoping to bring my storytelling skills and communication skills to not only tell the story of myself, but tell the stories of other scholars and spotlight them as well, so that it can help them and contribute to their own brand and
mm,
contribute to the work that they do. So that's a gap that I've seen
mm.
on social media. And I ended up joining the communications team at the end of the day.
Wow.
So, when I went in, so it's like identifying gaps and finding ways you can contribute.
Thank you very much for that. Does this strategy also apply when writing prospective professor for research supervision? Because I've written many emails to professors for my PhD research, yet no feedback.
Again, it's very important to rethink your approach. So what are you actually writing? I think it's also important for you to write from a position of strength and a position of alignment.
Mm,
So there's a need for you to like, because when I wasn't even applying for a PhD. It was masters that I wrote to people, and almost everybody responded back to me. In fact, one of the professors actually sent me their paper to read. And it was like, oh, this is me. I have like 12 years of experience in education. I've done this, I've done this, I've done that. These are the things that I've seen. These are the gaps that I've seen. And I've read about your work. I saw the work you did in Ghana that has done this, that has changed, and I'm hoping to like learn from that work. And, I think you can be my potential supervisor, and this is the reason why. And this, are, please let me know if you would. I understand you're busy. I understand that, there are maybe other students also reaching out. I don't want to take, your time for granted, but I'll be glad if, we can have an initial conversation where I can discuss my research. And if, you can, is there any other person you can point me to? Like, you're writing things that you're writing in a way that people would read it and, actually, this person is kind.
mm.
And they would either respond back or they will put you in touch with somebody else.
Thank you very much.
A kind of like there are ways to it. It's also communication.
Mm,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Do you have any question? Please, if you have any question, ask our speaker. He's more than capable to share insights. Uh, okay. On the day of, let's say, interview, is there anything that you do in particular to make you calm, to make you relax before the interview?
I would
I
not
see that
read.
you're drinking water now. Is
Yeah.
that part of the what
That's
you do?
okay. That's fine. But I would say that I would not put myself under pressure by reading my essays again.
Mm,
I would not do that. That's pressurizing myself. I would not read anything on the day of the interview again. I would just be like, I want to go and have fun
mm,
and enjoy. And I'll pick morning time if there's an opportunity to do morning. Because
thank,
morning is when I'm always free, my minds are free. I'm strong in the morning. Uh, so I would choose morning interview most of the time, and make sure that my gadgets are all ready. I will try to join 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 5 minutes before the time. I can open my laptop screen down.
mm.
And yeah, I just, and then if you believe in God, pray, and just go in. You've prepared already. On the day of interview, you shouldn't be putting yourself on pressure by then reading things that might not contribute to anything. I remember when I went for my Chamberlain interview, I saw people, they've printed their essays there that morning. They were like, ah,
Mm,
me, I was just looking.
mm,
I was looking. Me, I was not reading. I was just browsing my phone and checking social media
mm,
because my interview was 10. I was there 8.
mm.
So I sat down there. People were like, shh. People were reading their essays. It works for some people, but me, I don't want to put myself on any pressure. So I was just browsing my phone. I was calling and chatting. I was just doing things I would have done on a normal day.
And one thing that worked for me, like in particular, when it comes to interviews, that I just see that as they are trying to put a face to the application. like such
Yeah.
something like that. That makes me get relaxed most of the time. That okay, now I need to go and convince them that see I'm the perfect fit for this particular program.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I actually don't stress myself on the day of the. I just go and I have conversation
Mm.
because
So
you also.
see interview as a way, as a conversation, not just that someone is there to come and pressurize you or to come and stress you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm with you. I just want to lay emphasis on that.
Yeah, yeah,
The
no,
conversation part.
it's again, it's you might not align today doesn't mean you will not align tomorrow. So if
Mm,
people don't agree with what you've said or your responses, sometimes it might not be you, it's them, and that's okay, and you don't have to beat yourself up. And that somebody does not like an interview that I didn't get last year and I got in this year. Like we didn't agree at the time, but we agreed now.
wow.
You know, and I don't consider them as a bad people because even if I am the one selecting and I'm interviewing good candidates, even though they reject me, it doesn't mean that they are bad people.
Definitely.
So, I know some people when they reject them, they will go and send long emails and all of those
Yeah.
things. They would go and burn bridges.
Mm,
And they will say that they are rejecting rejection. It's a poor attitude.
mm,
It's a poor attitude. I mean, obviously they can be sometimes that people were unjust or unjustly treated. I think the way to reject rejection is by applying again.
mm,
It's by trying again, by showing up and by saying that, you rejected me last year, but I'm here. I've done multiple other things,
mm.
and you're rejecting rejection by what you've done and by your work and by your attitude,
Wow.
rather than rejecting rejections by getting angry, which is bad, but um it requires reflection, Ogbogbon,
Mm,
like I would say, Ogbogbon.
mm,
You can't just so I think I just wanted to like also touch on that it's not always the end of the world, if you're rejected. And it's not that you're not good. It's just that there's always also opportunity to improve, and there's opportunity to continue to create and build until the next time you meet them.
and in
And
fact, for you to get to that stage of interview, they've gone through your materials and they see that, oh, this person has potential. So it's not about you, it's
Mhm.
about what they think, and that's not on you. Mm, mm. So it's also good to take time to reflect. I also
Mhm.
get that from you. Thank you very much. Someone is asking that my question is to Austin is trying to is want to know to uh Mr. Coyote, sir, what makes you you and what makes you stand out?
I think they are my experiences. I think
Hmm,
uh, my experiences are unique to me. My stories are unique to me. Nobody owns that story.
hmm,
And I think those are the things that I try to bring and into my interview. And I think that the more interview that I've done, the more I feel comfortable in my skin, in my responses, in my approach to interview, in my story,
hmm,
in talking about things that I find really difficult, in speaking about the philosophy and things that I believe in. I did four interviews last year for different fellowship programs and I got into before.
wow.
Yeah,
Hmm,
I did, no, four interviews, one for a job, um, um, two for a fellowship and leadership program, and no, two for like one for a job, one for a contract job, and two for a fellowship program, like a leadership program and a fellowship, and I got into the four. And I mean, I got rejections of other things, but those were the ones that I got into their interviews, that I did an interview for, and I got the four. And I was like, okay, what changed?
hmm.
What has changed? And one of the things that I started reflecting was that I felt more comfortable with my story. Tell us about yourself came in all the questions, and I answered them the same way, but using different approach. So I felt comfortable with my story. I understood that story. I understood my uniqueness. I felt comfortable with things that I'm thinking about, disagreeing. I think I'll be like, I believe that this thing, like, I feel like you guys are doing great, but
Mm.
I think that these are the things that you guys are not doing well. And this is the reason why. You know,
So yeah.
you know, I'm also like being critical, being truthful,
Mm,
I think I've gotten to a stage where I feel like I have nothing to lose.
mm,
And I'm like, whether you like it or not, pick me. If you don't want to pick me, it's also fine. I mean, I'm not showing that in the interview. I'm still being humble and showing him, but I'm like, it's okay
mm,
for me not to get in. It's fine. That's okay, right? And just, again, feeling comfortable with my experiences. And I think experiences and the competencies I've built over time has really, really helped me in the interviews that I've been doing. I actually remember a question that they asked me that, oh, actually, you've done so much. They asked me that question, and why do you think you actually need this program when you've done so much?
mm,
And is there an end to leadership?
mm.
That I'm a student of leadership. And even though I'm a leader myself, I feel like there
They
are
are
other,
trying to corner you. You also try to corner them back. Mm,
I said, there are people that I will meet on this program that do not have the experiences that I have.
mm,
Their experiences are unique to them, and I think I want to learn from their perspective. I'm somebody who learn through shared stories, and
mm,
I think it's going to be powerful just sitting in a room with people who share similar interests and ideals and learning from their stories. I think it's
mm.
going to, and I don't know what it will change for me in terms of my leadership approach, but that's something that I'm hoping to explore by going into this program.
How do you get to be spontaneous during interview?
It's experience.
Mm,
It's learning to even do informal interviews. This is an interview already.
yeah.
Done multiple of this.
Mm,
You know, um, conversation with my friends. Thoughts that we just talk about random topics that are scripted. Writing,
mm,
because one of the ways to process your thoughts is through writing. So sometimes all the things that I've shared on social media are my responses
mm.
in an interview. Things that I talk about.
So it's good to be really reflective of your journey, not just that you're just living the process, you're just
Exactly.
going through.
Yeah.
Sometimes go back, reflect, learn from the journey, learn from the processes. And, mm,
Yeah. So for example, like some of my articulations are through my writings. Because by writing, you then make sense of how you speak.
mm,
Great speakers sometimes are great writers.
right.
So they've been able to write and process their thoughts. So you are processing your thoughts by writing and you're making sense of it. So when you're writing, you're organizing your thoughts. So by the time you're speaking, it seems as if you're then speaking those thoughts that you've written because
Mm,
you've been able to articulate it.
mm,
There are other processes towards articulation,
mm.
which is, speaking to a friend, random conversation, other things you've done. But I think writing is one of the major ways to actually articulate. What I'm saying now is a post that I've written and I've scheduled for next week. What
Mm,
I've just said now, I've written it already.
mm.
I'm sharing it in a way that is articulate.
Mm.
But then that's been through a process of writing before saying it.
Thank you very much. Uh, please take ownership of your story. It's very, very important. So, are you still open to two more questions? Let's just take this to the
Yeah,
last two.
because I feel like I'm already like getting tired already.
So,
So
should we just have the two or just
yeah, 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 fine. That's okay.
okay. So this is going to be the last two questions. So someone's asking that please uh does the time for the interview consider the different time zone? Does it fall into afternoon or evening or in West African time? And as well as the popular time frame before the interview day?
I think it depends on where you're applying to and the time they've given to you. So it's good to know. It's good to
Mm,
actually know. And if something comes up as well, don't be scared to actually reach out to reschedule or to communicate. Don't feel like you don't want to go to an interview unprepared. Don't feel like you're being compelled
mm,
a particular time. I used to go like, I don't think that time would work for me because, I'm going through this at the moment and I think I like to adjust the timing because of the situation. Don't be scared to communicate. I think if there's anything I've learned on my journey, even on my leadership journey, it's actually
mm.
communicating and asking. Ask, you will get. If you never ask, you will never receive. It's
Thank you
one.
very much.
So yeah, making sure you pay attention to those things and time zone, and Google is there to be like, oh, what's the time zone of what, you can use Google to convert maybe GMT to UTC, maybe what to GMT. There's this time converter that you can actually use, or even if it's US EST, you can always convert the time, and then you're prepared, and then you've set an alarm. You've set two different alarms that will remind you. You've put in
Mm,
some calendar. I use calendar a lot so
mm.
that you don't forget when you're having it.
Thank you very much. So this is a bit unrelated to the topic, but how do I boost my chances of securing a graduate school admission with scholarship with a second class upper undergraduate degree? I think we have quite a lot of videos on this channel on various tips. Uh, but I
And
don't know.
second class upper is also a good grade. So
Definitely, you are
yeah,
competitive.
yeah, it's but I think also like not just looking at your academic alone, your experiences as well. The
Mm,
experiences you've built. How do you build your own lived experience and the work you've done into your maybe you're doing research. If for example it's a research program you're applying to and it's not focused more on leadership. Like you could see how that experiences actually influence the research. In research, there's something called positionality, and
mm,
positionality helps you. It could help you in research. It could also be a setback or limitation, but it's how you're reflective of that position and how that kind of like affects the research you intend to do or the work you intend to do as well, and being able to reflect on that as you write your essays, for example, or as you write your statement of purpose, when you're submitting to a school,
mm.
and grounding that in all of those experiences that you've had. So your academic grade is not enough. You need experiences. You need to go volunteer. You need to go every single day I'm building an experience. I'm like, every single day I'm always looking for an opportunity to build an experience because let's be truthful, the world is competitive and
Please.
you don't want to be caught um not, having a unique response that is unique to you.
Because when it even comes to graduate school, you are not competing with just people from your country. You are competing with people from like all over the place. So you have to be, of course, be prepared to stand out. Thank you very much. And Collins, you can check the channel. There are a whole lot of videos on tips for graduate school that I think definitely they're going to be useful to you. Someone is asking that can you share the some of the emails that you've sent to prospective supervisors? Thank you very much.
Well, I'm not sure if I can share that on this call.
The um, like I'm working on a particular video on that, so
Yeah.
but don't worry, chooks. So this session has been quite impactful and insightful. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate this session. Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed, for making time out to do this. I'm sure everyone they've learned quite a lot of things from your wealth of experience. And in fact, you are free to watch this video. I'm going to upload it again. It's going to be on YouTube, so you can watch it and reflect and also learn from what our speaker has said. I mean, he's very, very busy, but he make time how to do things like this and to share his experience with you all. So thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed, for making time out. Do you have any last word or any last thing that you want to say to the audience?
No, I really don't have any last words, but I will just say that, the opportunity of tomorrow have been built today. So it's what you do today. In fact, I was telling somebody more recently that it's not that I don't believe in New Year, but I actually don't totally believe in the idea of New Year. It's a new day for me.
Mm,
It's another day, another day to work, another day to do something. So most of the time, people feel like New Year goes. When actually you should be focused on the journey rather than setting a new set of goals and throwing other goals away.
mm,
It's more of a journey. It's more of what you do daily that affects whatever happens tomorrow.
mm,
So it's the opportunity of tomorrow and what you do today. The opportunity of 2025 have been created many years ago,
mm,
and it's the people who have built that take advantage of that opportunity. I recorded a podcast today. Some people want to feature stories on tech leaders and tech. And I saw that email yesterday. I booked the interview today, and they are trying to write like a post on reimagining education. But they found me somewhere.
mm.
That happened because I set a New Year resolution.
Mm.
No, it's happened because daily improvements, daily
Mm,
sharing, daily showing up, daily building experiences,
mm,
right? So I think we should focus more on that process of becoming and building our own experiences, constantly building our own experiences. So that by the time you're writing an essay or you're writing a story, you have a lot to talk about and share.
right. Mm. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I really appreciate. Thank you for making time out. I think we've come to the end of this amazing session. So thanks so much, Sal. I learned a lot. Thank you. This session was engaging and insightful. Thank you, Sals. So everyone appreciates you, and they're happy
Yes,
to learn from a wealth of experience. Thank you very much.
to be,
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.